There we go. So welcome everyone. I'm just going to pin my pin me, so at least on the recording I'm big. There we go. So thanks for joining. This is I don't know how many of these free ones I've done now. I'm sort of trying to do one a month at least. So and we've worked on some functional breathing mechanics in the last one. Today's is about breath holding. It's super practical. You don't need to have one of these at all, but they're only about 20 quid. And if you get sort of quite into it, a pulse oximeter can be quite useful to give you some feedback on how you are actually doing with your breath holds in terms of what level is your blood oxygen saturation dropping to. Very quickly, if anyone's got one and they've got their screen on, when we do them, you can like hold it next to the screen so I can see what you do. So there will be a couple of keynotes that that might have one. A little tip. This is I can't quote the research paper because I don't know exactly where I came across it from, but I have seen your middle right finger. So on your right hand, your middle finger is apparently the most accurate of fingers to use on your pulse oximeter. What I would say though is if you've got it on one of your fingers and you're getting like really weird readings, like it's saying I'm 50%, and if there's no way I'm 50% because I don't feel out of breath and I've probably passed out if I'm at 50%. So if you if it's been a bit funny, try on a different finger. That tends to work. Cool. So we will get started. I've just got a couple of, I'm just going to set the scene a little bit as we like to do with these things. I'll just share this, present, there we go. Cool, so I've already done a relatively rubbish job of saying hello to everyone and welcoming. So, free breathwork class, breath holds. And you might be going like, well, why are we doing breath holds? Or what's this all about? So a little setting, a little bit of context as to why we're doing this thing. It's one element of, and it's not everything that the Oxygen Advantage is about, but there's one element of improving our breathing by using breath holds and using them in a particular way. And one of those things being it being a breath hold after we've done a normal exhalation. And what I'm going to do today is we're going to go through and you know, some of you may have done plenty of this before, some of you may be for the first time. We're going to take you through that, starting right from the very sort of basics and starting point. Just to say, from a safety perspective, breath holding is completely safe and a normal thing to do. You will feel a strong urge to breathe, hopefully by the end of it, and that's going to be a good thing, unless you are pregnant. So I can see there are some females on the call. If you are pregnant, it is not advised for you to be doing strong breath holds. Okay, so I have said that. And then if you have any serious underlying health conditions, like you've got a heart problem or you've got particularly high or particularly low blood pressure, then stressing the body with additional breath holding is not recommended. Okay, but for all the rest of us, for everyone else, it is a very safe thing to do, and that's something very good to do to improve our breathing. And I've got here, there's three elements, and this is going to have the potential benefit to improve our normal day-to-day breathing, as well as some sports performance specific or exercise performance specific adaptations. Okay, so it isn't just for sporting performance, it is beneficial for everyone that wants to improve the way that they breathe and the quality of their breathing. So what are these three elements? Two of them are hypoxic based, and that's just a word that people say to try and sound fancy and make people try and think that they're clever, but all it means is low oxygen. So if I said low oxygen, you wouldn't think I was clever. You'd be like, oh, they're two words that I recognize. So don't be put off by scientific words. Hypoxic just means low oxygen. When we hold the breath, And the research shows us that a breath hold that is challenging, so not easy, that's you're going to feel a little bit of discomfort when you do this, that it's challenging and lasts for around 30 seconds or more. So we will use a stopwatch to time these. We can get a contraction of the spleen, and this is like, okay, we're getting, it becomes a little bit of an anatomy lesson. But the spleen is like a blood bank, holds about 8% additional red blood cells. And the way I like to think of it is when you're holding the breath and no more oxygen is coming in and your body starts using up the oxygen that is in your blood, that starts to go into the tissues, your body is like then asking you to breathe, because we need to get some one. We'll talk about carbon dioxide in a second, but we need oxygen to stay alive. So when there is no oxygen, no more oxygen coming in, and when this lasts for not immediate, but not straight away, but after a while, 30 seconds, the body starts to go, hold on a minute, what can I do to help this problem? We have got low oxygen in the system. What can I do? And the spleen contracts to release more red blood cells. The spleen holds about 8% additional red blood cells, and that contraction of the spleen is immediate, and that release of red blood cells for a period of time, the research shows us like up to an hour potentially, and then the spleen will reabsorb it. But it's a reaction to the low oxygen to say, here you go, here's some more red blood cells. That's going to help you with your oxygen carrying capacity of the blood, hopefully. That's what I've just been put off. It said the name entering the thing was David Giddings. I read it as David Goggins, and I was like, holy moly, David Goggins has come in. But no, it isn't. Anyway, oxygen, it's so the spleen will contract to give us some more. The red blood cells is what carries oxygen within the blood, yeah. So it gives us more potential to do that. It's the body's way of like trying to help us out when we're holding the breath. So you then have for about an hour, maybe a little bit less. The research is not completely conclusive on exactly how long it lasts, but for up to an hour, more red blood cells going around your system. That is one of the reasons why it's very good, and we use it with athletes to do in warm-ups. And we're going to do some like walking. We might even do some jogging ones, maybe some squatting ones there, but some simple exercises that you're going to utilize in warm-ups. So you don't have to do them extra to what you're doing. You're going to use any warm-up to increase the oxygen carrying capacity of blood. Now, I promise you, if you do this, if the strongest contraction of the spleen happens after the 5th breath hold, if you do 5 breath holds in your warm-ups before your next training session, I guarantee you are going to feel better when you go into your session. I had one client who was doing this crazy challenge of trying to run 10 10K runs in a row. So running 10K every day for 10 days. We started doing some stuff on day 5. She started doing some breath holds, and she started PBing on her 10Ks, even though, and she was doing the breath holds in her warm-ups, doing PBs on her 10Ks, even though it was like day 7, and her body would generally be feeling pretty tough. But for her 10K that took around an hour to do, for that hour, she had some additional red blood cells carrying more oxygen around her body for her. So yeah, it works. The science is there and shows us, and it does work. There is so the spleen contraction is immediate, not to be confused with the production of EPO, which is a hormone from the kidneys that allows or sort of activates or stimulates the bone marrow to produce more red blood cells, so we can increase our total red blood cell count, which can be an ongoing thing. It takes about 3 or 4 days for that process to go through, but that could be an ongoing thing that's going to increase my red blood cell count over a long period of time if I carry on doing regularly some breath holding in my practice. I'm doing a little test on myself where I've had my blood samples taken and then going through a series of breath holding, and then I'm yet to retake them, but to see the changes that I can actually make on myself. N is 1, but there are studies done on lots of other people. I wanted to like test it out on myself. So that's then basically the same, starting to elicit the same effects that we see or benefits we see from being at altitude. People do altitude training to expose themselves to less oxygen at altitude, the body adapting, becoming more efficient with oxygen that's there and creating more red blood cells. We don't have to go to altitude to get those benefits. If we get our blood oxygen saturation, so if anyone does have one of these, I'll have mine on and do it whilst we're going through, so you'll be able to see. If I can drop my blood oxygen saturations to somewhere between like 80 to 87%, that is the equivalent to being at 3 to 4,000 meters of altitude, something like that. Okay, but you get to do that in the safety and comfort of your own home. So they're the two low oxygen elements. The high CO2, because you're not offloading, you're not breathing it out, allows the body to respond to this acidic environment. So carbon dioxide, without trying to get too complicated, like it makes the blood more acidic. It converts by carbonic acid, which gets converted or dissociates into a hydrogen ion and bicarbonate, and that hydrogen ion creates a more acidic environment. The body has to deal with that acidic environment that you created and improves our buffering capacity for lactic acid. And this has been well reproduced within the research in a few some more recent studies in sports, where we're seeing some benefits of breath holding, even in very short periods of time, because of this effect, less so from the low oxygen potentially, which is quite exciting for the sporting world and for those of us that want to try and help people to improve their breathing. The thing about the high CO2 environment is that carbon dioxide being that primary stimulus to breathe, not the only, but the primary stimulus that the chemoreceptors are most responsive to, because of that acidity affecting pH, and the body needs to keep the pH of the blood in balance around 7.3. And so it regulates or modulates the pH of the blood by using the amount of carbon dioxide that's in it. And it changes our breathing to respond to that. If we get into the bad habit, like most of us or a lot of us are, of breathing dysfunctionally and being a bit more stressed and those types of things, and basically breathing faster with the mouth makes us breathe faster because there's less resistance and all that stuff that we talked about plenty of times in the past. This is brand new to you. Apologies. Your stimulus to breathe is not oxygen being low, it's CO2 being high for those reasons. And if we get into that habit and that state, our sensitivity to carbon dioxide gets affected. The body gets used to lower levels of it because you're offloading it all the time. And so you become more sensitive. So that when you start exercising, your sensitivity to carbon dioxide is like your body can't handle that acidic environment, and it makes you want to breathe even faster. And then you become even more inefficient. And also your ability to tolerate lactic acid is affected. There's a direct link between your VO2 max and your chemosensitivity to carbon dioxide. So improving your tolerance of carbon dioxide by practicing breath holding, which creates an acidic environment that you adapt to, is a good thing. And you just do it in these short little periods. 5 breath holds is all we sort of need. Okay. I've got a slide with loads of text, which is basically, look at that. That's basically what I told you already, but something I won't even go. I don't need that. We don't need that slide. It's just some people will want to see some of the research. So if anyone does, like, I can literally send. I've quoted them there, and I've got a slide of them at the end. But I can send if anyone's like really wants to actually go and read some of these studies, they can actually look at them. But we're seeing some improving oxygen carrying capacity from 2.8, so nearly 3%, up to nearly 10%. The breath up, the 80 to 87% giving SpO2, giving us an altitude effect of like 4,000 or 5,000 meters of altitude, and increase that bottom one, increasing EPO production by 24% after 5 strong breath holds following or after an exhalation. So we do the breath holds after an exhale, rather than filling the air with lungs, taking a breath in and holding the breath, where you're filling the air with lungs. The blood oxygen saturation is not going to drop as quickly, because any oxygen that goes from your blood into your tissues is going to be replenished by that breath that you are holding on to. And therefore, you're not going to get that fancy word, the hypoxia, quite as strongly or quite as quickly. So we can get stronger adaptations to breath holding by doing them after an exhale, You might not hold your breath as long, but the adaptation is going to be stronger. And that's what we're here. That's what we're here to do, or that's what it's about. Okay. Body language. I mentioned this before I hit go live, and then we'll get started with it. One thing that's great is to see post breath hold. So after your breath hold finishes, how does your body respond? Can you keep it in through the nose? Some people are laughing at me. Can you keep it in through the nose? Do you just panic? It's like body language combined with psychology. The psychology of this is huge. Okay, you are going to finish your breath hold not because oxygen hits a critical level, not even because CO2 hits a critical level. You'll feel uncomfortable because CO2 has risen and your diaphragm might contract, but you will finish your breath hold because of psychological reasons. You can't handle the discomfort. And teaching ourselves to what is air hunger feel like? What is a strong sense of air hunger? How sensitive to it am I? Doing a breath hold. When I first did my first lots of like walking breath holds, I got to about 18 paces and I thought I was going to die. I felt like I was suffocating. And Patrick McKeown had told me with professional athletes, we want them to be able to do 100 steps. And I was like, Patrick, when he's teaching me, I'm like, Patrick, I'm not now. I used to be a professional rugby player. Like, surely I'm fit. Like, what is the matter with me? Why can't, like, what's problem with my breathing? And there was stuff to do with the head injury. There's what finished my rugby career, yada, yada. But anyway, look, 99%, the bottom number, the top number is heart rate. The bottom number is SpO2, 99%. That's good. It doesn't want to be 100 because that would mean no oxygen is leaving my blood. But I'm at rest now, not doing anything other than getting dead excited about talking to you. So I'm actually talking really fast, offloading loads of CO2 as I'm talking. Slow down, Jacko. But 99%. He went, put on your pulse oximeter and go and do your walks and tell me what it gets to. So I'm like walking along and I get to 18 or whatever, and I'm like, I am dying. The feeling of like needing to breathe was just like too much. And then look at this and it's like 98. And I'm like, hold on a minute, what's going on? Like 98, like why it does that? Surely that's not right. Like it's barely moved. And the reality is that I was nowhere, it wasn't oxygen that was low at all. It was just I'd become too sensitive to carbon dioxide. And then what's your habits like afterwards? It's like a chance to see how well can you control your breathing, or is your breathing controlling you? Okay. And it's a chance to go, right, rather than waiting to try when I'm exercising and like getting into bad breathing habits, I can, the very simple, you could just be walking or not even walking, be still and hold your breath. And you know, when you let go, right, I know this is going to be challenging for my breathing. So you can prepare yourself for it and let go. Breathe in with good mechanics. Anyone that joined the functional breathing, the last one I did in January, like trying to use those ribs and the diaphragm and get away from the fast, shallow, inefficient breathing patterns. So that's something for you to think about body language. When you finish your breath hold, mentally prepare for how are you going to breathe well. Okay. Well, if you're playing sports, body language is massive. When you see someone, I'm actually going to come out of, I'm going to stop this share. So you can see, when you see someone, anyone, like whether you think you're an expert in breathing, I don't consider myself an expert. I'm just like trying to share some stuff that I've learned, but whether you might think you're the expert, and that's cool, or you might think you know nothing about breathing. If you're playing a sport and so you can see your opposition like going, panting and loud breathing, mouth breathing like that, you're like not worried about that person. You're like, right, I'm taking you to town. Like this is on. You're knackered. You're done. I've got you. Or if you're running, say you're doing like a 5K park run, and you're running along, and you can hear yourself. You're that one. You're like the train chugging along, and someone comes up behind you, and you can't hear them breathing. You can just hear their footsteps, and before you see them looking really cool and efficient, but before you can see them, you're like, shit. If you were in a race with them, you're like, park run's not a race, is it? It's just an enjoyable thing. No, we all race. Come on, we're all competitive. But you're thinking, shit. And not because you know anything about breathing, but because you know intuitively that when someone is barely breathing, that you can barely hear them, you know they've got loads more left in the tank, and they are a threat to your ability to win parkrun or become or come 38th, because that would be a PB for you. Anyway, so you know that people's breathing tells us something about them. Okay. I think the final thing I wanted to say is we're going to try post breath hold. So when you finish your breath hold, you're going to let go. You're going to try to breathe relatively calmly. Try to resist the urge to breathe in like that, and because that will not actually get your breath back as quickly. Plus, we want to try to actually keep a little bit of that CO2 buildup that stayed there in there, so you carry on with some of those adaptations. So what we're going to try and do is regulate your breathing within 6 breaths. That also means that you're not going to hold your breath so much that you're going to like endanger yourself of passing out. The job is not to try and make it so stressful that it's the worst thing you ever do. It's trying to push our boundaries to make us better. Can you regulate your breathing within 6? If I let go and go 1, 2, 3, 2, I haven't regulated my breathing, and you've pushed it too far, and you've not controlled. You're letting your breathing control you rather than you control the breathing. Does that make sense? Does everyone give me some thumbs up? Yeah. So control within 6. Okay. And then we start easy and we build up real nice. Okay. And remember, this is about psychology, that you have to change your relationship with the feeling of air hunger. I'll explain stuff as we go. And in order for you, when you can change your psychology and your thoughts around, I'm not suffocating, it's actually okay, then you are starting to influence your physiology by getting oxygen low and CO2 high. But at the start, when we don't do much, oxygen doesn't go down much and CO2 doesn't go up much. Okay, so we need to push our mental barrier a little bit for it. So shall we have a go? Has anyone got, I'm just going to put you on a bigger, has anyone got pulse oximeters with them? There's a couple, I can see a couple. Cool. Hold up to, not the first few, well, you can do it for all of them. Now, if you haven't got one of them, doesn't matter at all. What would be nice is to have a stopwatch on your phone, so you can time. We're going to do 2 things. We're going to time our breath holds, and you're going to count how many steps, paces, jogging or squats, or whatever the exercise it is that we do. You're going to count the number of things that you do. Oh, Sigaline, I see you. Also shout out to Eva Martinez, has got like a wicked background as well. Like people looking pro. Anyway, so right, we start off easy. I'm just trying to make my screen big. There we go. Right, we'll start off easy. And we're going to be standing, and you're going to walk. Doesn't matter how much space you've got, whether you're the secret millionaire living in a massive house or whatever, or you've got a tiny little crappy little room like me, home office, we can walk on the spot if needs be. Okay, it's nice to be able to walk around. And when you're not doing a Zoom call, please do your breath holds walking outside if you can. It's nicer, and also when you can, and particularly if you can get in nature, a nice wide panoramic view is more relaxing for the nervous system. It's more parasympathetic promoting. If you can relax into your breath holds, you will go for longer. That is proof, and you will feel it. If you go narrow vision, looking at your feet on the floor, like not aware of what's around us, it was more stressful, and then you will not hold your breath as long. Okay, but whilst we're doing Zoom, we're going to do that. So one of the things, relaxing is really important. Relax into it. Your best tool is this: smile. Smiling helps you relax and will make you feel happier. And when it feels weird and uncomfortable, we're going to need to do that. We're going to need to feel like that. So our first breath hold, you are only going to do 10 steps. That's it. If 10 is your max, then fine, just do 5. But for most people, they'll be able to do 10. We're going to start with a normal breath in, a normal breath out of the nose, pinch the nose, and we'll do our 10 steps. But it's not what people often do for breath in. It's like, right, with normal breath in, normal breath out. Got it, Jacko. And they go, ooh, I'm ready. And they do this huge preparation breath. And what we're doing in that huge preparation breath is offloading a load of CO2. So if I go, offload a load of CO2, hold the breath, well, I'm not going to get that high CO2 effect because I've just got rid of a load of it. Okay, so normal breath in, normal breath out of the nose should be silent. You shouldn't be able to see me breathing. So I like to relax. So shake the shoulders out. Got to do a bit of shaking. Shaking helps us. That's my secret. That's my other secret tip. Shaking. Let yourself relax, and then smile. Normal breath in, silent. Normal breath out. Pinch the nose. Then walk for 10 steps. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let go. Breathe in through the nose. 10 steps. May be difficult. For a lot of people, it'll be easy. For me now, I don't feel like I'm suffocating at 18 steps. I think I've done 130 or something in the past as a PB, and that's yes, that's me showing off. No, so but just that when I do 10, I breathe in. I can still breathe in silently. It's not stressful to do that. But we always build up, like anything, build up gradually. Okay. I remember what I said at the start, and to anyone that's joined late. If you're pregnant, you shouldn't be doing strong breath holds. If you've got like a heart condition or any serious underlying health conditions, you shouldn't be doing strong breath holds. But for the rest of us, it can be safe. Okay, so that's the protocol. We're going to just start to gradually bring things up. We won't time these ones yet. I'll bring that in a second. Okay, if 10 felt fine, we'll go for another 5. So 5, 10, 15. So we're going to go 15 steps. Walk whatever pace you want, and I'll be able to talk through a few things as we go. Okay, so again, relax, shrug the shoulders, smile, normal breath in, normal breath out, pinch the nose, then walk in 15 paces. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, sorry, 15. 15. Let go. Breathe in through the nose. I'm talking as I'm doing those breath holds. So when I'm counting out, it's obviously not really a strict breath hold for me. I'm actually blowing out. Okay. Hopefully, again, that didn't feel too bad. Okay. Feel free to give us any feedback as we start ramping them up a little bit. Yeah, anyone that does want those studies, I'm just looking at the chat, then email me, or I'm gonna send the recording to everyone so you get it, but just reply to me and I can put them in. Cool. So 15. Hopefully it's okay. We're going to build up again. Now, give a little bit of guidance, people. 15 was like super easy. We'll go for like 20 or 25. So start to pick up. Go to 25. I mean, if you're like quite well adapted at this, go to even 30. Yeah. What you're going to probably find is at some point now, as we start to go for a little bit more, a little bit longer, what's going to happen is you will want to swallow. Do that. That's fine. Let yourself swallow. We're going to have to use our willpower to carry on holding the breath because it's going to start to feel a bit uncomfortable. Okay. What you might find is the diaphragm might have a little like woo, like a little let's breathe. That is just CO2 levels being risen to the point where your the chemoreceptors in your brainstem tell your diaphragm to breathe in. You're going to ignore that. Let it contract and carry on walking. Just so we don't get freaked out by it, because it feels a bit weird, is we're going to do a blocked inhalation now all together, where you're going to do a normal breath in, a normal breath out, pinch the nose, and then I want you to hold, don't move, just hold the breath, put your hand underneath where your sternum is, underneath your ribs, normal breath in, normal breath out, pinch the nose, and try and breathe in whilst you can't breathe. And you'll feel your diaphragm trying to like pop out. Okay, that's going to happen. Good. Hopefully you can feel that. A bit of a weird feeling deep in there, actually, diaphragm trying to pull, but no air can come in. You're going to be holding your breath walking. Your brain will notice that CO2's gone up through the roof at some point, and it's going to send a message to your diaphragm to breathe. It will do that, and you're not going to like panic and go, and breathe. You're just going to go, no, it's just CO2. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get CO2 high. Okay, that makes sense? All right. For some people, it might not happen yet. They might need to go further before it kicks in. So go to 20 if you're being conservative, or 15 was like your max, stay at 15, but just try to maybe do 16. But some of us will go to 20, 25, or maybe even 30. Okay, swallow, you need to swallow. See if that diaphragm wants to contract, see how you respond. Okay, So shake it out, shake your belly, relax, smile, ding, normal breath in, normal breath out. Off we go. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, right. So we've got. When you finish, let go. Breathe in through the nose. Resist the urge to breathe in like this. Regulate your breathing within 6. Remember. Okay. Now, stay there. I'm going to give us time our recovery because we started doing some warm-ups, and we're hopefully starting to feel okay. And I'm going to give us about a minute's rest in between these, and then I'll give us a slightly long one before, slightly longer rest before our most challenging ones. Okay. If for this next one, if you've got a pulse oximeter, put it on for the next one. And I want you to time how long your next breath hold is when I say go. I want you to just time your own one. Oh, Rachel, yeah, so heart rate is, your heart rate will go up. It's a stressor. The body's working harder. Your heart rate will go up. And blood oxygen, like only dropping a couple. So we're going to try and get it longer. Another question, what do you mean by regulate your breathing within 6? So when you finish the breath hold, rather than breathing like this and wasting those 6 breaths, I want you to be able to be back to normal breathing within 6. So you let go. It's a bit challenging, but I'm trying to breathe well. There's 1, 2. You might do a third one and then be like, oh, I'm back to normal. Well, if it only takes you 3 to get back to normal, you actually know, oh, I actually can push this quite a bit further because Jacko says we can take 6. And Jacko says we can take 6 because that's what Patrick McKeown said to me we can take, and he's the man, yeah? So what you're going to do now is I want you to push yourself to the point where that diaphragm contracts, and you're going to try really hard for me to not give in to that feeling of you need to breathe in. You don't. Your blood oxygen saturation will still be 98% or whatever, but you're going to carry on walking. It's just carbon dioxide that's high. Tell yourself that. It's carbon dioxide. It's carbon dioxide. It will be okay. It will be okay. It will be okay. That's what we need to say to ourselves, yeah? Okay? And count how many steps you do and time it. And at the end, if you're happy to, it'll be useful for me for some feedback, and I can give some guidance of, in the chat box, you're going to write 25 steps, 13 seconds, however, yeah? Okay. So when you're ready, shake it out, relax, smile, swallow, we need to swallow. You can even puff your cheeks out. I often like doing that. And when you're ready, normal breath in, normal breath out, pinch your nose, off you go, walk in, count your steps and time it. Smile, keep relaxing into it. When the diaphragm contracts, that's fine. It's just CO2 going up. It's not a problem. We want that diaphragm to contract. It's just a sign that CO2 is high. That's good. Keep going, keep going. Try to push through, try to push through. Remember, you are going to regulate your breathing within 6 once you finish your breath hold. And notice, if you might have thought, oh, that's the hardest one I've ever done, but if you can regulate your breathing within 4 breaths, you know actually you can go a little bit further, and it's psychologically we need to push a little bit further, more, yeah? Cool. So if you, I'll time our rest again. If in the chat box, yes, look, like Elizabeth, like Jake, put how many, so 30 steps and then seconds, or a number, yeah. And some of you, I'd also really interested, did anyone, and don't be embarrassed by it, in the chat box, if you're like, oh man, I lost count, then say you lost count, because it's really, it happens all the time, and it's an interesting one. Maybe for some people, if you didn't lose count, it might happen when you start to do some stronger ones. Yes, so someone saying lost count. The losing count is like, if I asked you now, maybe some of it are like, you know, maybe like me, you're not very clever and you just can't count that. It's like I got to 60, I can't do more than, I can't count that. But generally, everyone can count to a number in. If I ask this, right, everyone count now to 100. No one's going to lose count, sat here just talking. But when we have to, something else is going on, you've got to focus on just the cognitive ability to count. When oxygen is low, CO2 is high, and you're feeling stressed because you're holding the breath, we struggle to count. Now, what's the relevance of that? In a sporting context, how many times when I was playing rugby, I was a professional rugby player, but we all make mistakes, right? How many times did I just drop the ball or forget the call or do something? Not because I wasn't good enough. It's like I had the ability the skill to do the thing. It's that I'm under fatigue. We struggle with focus and concentration. And it's the exact same thing here. You're walking around your room, so you're not tired, you're not fatigued, but what's your breathing like afterwards? Your breathing is like you're tired and fatigued. The blood gases are simulating being under fatigue. Your oxygen is low and your CO2 is high. So it's a chance to practice that and experience that. Okay. Right. We're going to go now. I've given you 2 minutes rest there. We're going to go now for your strongest one. What's really good now is you had a time and the number of steps from your last one. What's very good mentally to help with the psychology, having something you're going to try to beat. So if you did 45 steps last time, you're going to do 50. And you put 50 in your head now and you like, Jacko, I promise I'm just going to keep going until I go 50. If 45 felt like the most you could ever possibly in the world do, I promise you 5 more steps isn't going to cause any problem. You can do a little bit more. Yeah. If you recovered your breathing within 3 breaths, you can push yourself loads more. Just psychologically, you're a bit needing to get used to that air hunger. So I promise you, you're gonna push through. The diaphragm will contract. It'll feel a bit weird. You might even get like your legs. You might feel a bit of jelly legs. That's just the blood is more going to your breathing muscles and being taken from the legs. It lasts for a couple of seconds and you'll be back to normal. Okay. If anyone's got a pulse oximeter, hold it up to the screen afterwards. Your blood oxygen won't drop down straight away. It takes a bit of time. It takes about 16 seconds, I think, for the blood to go around all your system. So it's almost like you'll finish the breath hold, then a few seconds later it'll be strongest. Yeah. I'm going to do it as well with you. Okay. So I'm not going to count because that will be cheating. So I'll be silent and you'll just see me like working hard like you. I've got to join in, right? It's not fair for you to be the only ones having fun with your breath holds. Right. So get composed in terms of relax, shake it out, smile. Interestingly, see, this is a good example of, it thinks my heart rate was 149 and my blood oxygen saturation is 84. I'm fairly certain that's not correct. So I need to like swap fingers and try it on something else. I'm pretty excited. So my heart rate might be quite high. Right. Because if I start my breath hold with my heart rate racing like that, then the breath hold is going to be over pretty quick. Okay, so shake it out. Right, so you've got to put a number in your head. There's a few more than last time. And you're going to beat it. Try not to lose count and time it as well. Because a 30-second mark is important for us. Okay, so shake it out. Smiling, swallow when you swallow. That diaphragm will contract. That's all fine. When you're ready. Normal in, normal out. Yeah, 93, 92, 91, 88, 82. There you go. I got to, it's not a race to the bottom. I'm just showing you. Went reasonably strong. Mine has gone down to 76. Heart rate is getting back down to normal. And then I think I'm getting a bit of a, not a great reading because it's not coming back up yet, which it would have done because I'm feeling like I'm restoring. So I'll swap fingers and hands. So in your, put in the chat, did you also now, how many steps you did, how much time you did, and was it further than the one before? Did you manage to go and just write, yeah, further or not as far? There you go, back to 99. So sometimes you do need to swap your finger. Good, further by a bit. Cool, 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 cool. Good. 30 seconds is where we're trying to get to. If this is the first, if you think of the context of the first time I tried to do this, I did like 18 steps. It probably took me about 12 seconds or something, or maybe probably less. If you're doing like those that are anywhere near sort of like 30 seconds, like you're doing fantastic. One thing we're going to do now is change the intensity. And that's going to be still some people losing count. It's a good example. We're going to change the intensity. So time will be interesting in this, but just to show you that it doesn't have to be just walking around. We can do it jogging. We can do it squatting. So my plan is we're going to do the next one, jogging. We'll start walking and build it up. Okay, so you go walking, fast walk. So maybe do the first 10, we'll do the first 10 steps walking as you were. The next 10 steps, fast walking. And then after that, like start jogging. And every 10, you can try to just like increase it a little bit. So as the breath hold gets stronger, we increase the intensity. So the metabolic demand is going up. Your body is going to require more oxygen when you're jogging and is going to create more CO2. So we're getting a stronger effect. So rather than going for longer, you've been, I've did 30 seconds, now I'm going to try and do 40. Well, just do 30 seconds, but make it harder. That's a way of progressing it without wasting any more time. Because ultimately, we're not trying to get better at breath holding to hold our breath for longer, unless you're a free diver, which I'm certainly not, and I'm sure most people won't. But the reason you're trying to improve your breath holding is to improve the quality of your breathing and your sporting performance. Okay. So rather than doing longer, make it more intense. Does that make sense? Yeah, cool. So you should notice that within a couple of minutes, your heart rate should come back to normal. So that's 51, and then my blood oxygen saturation 98. So you want your heart rate back to normal, and your heart rate will take longer to come back to normal than your blood oxygen saturations. Anyone that did wear a blood oxygen, so Dave said he got us down to 92. See whether you can get yourself into the 80s. Into the 80s is about where I want to be. Mine went below. I was like 70 something. I've been doing them for a long time, but we don't have to. We're not trying. It's not a race to get it as low as possible. Okay, so it's in and around the 80s is good. Hypoxia generally, there's some arguments between the exact number it is, but anything below 90 or anything below 91 classified as hypoxia. Cool. So we're gonna so the amount of time it takes to get back to normal. Someone asked, Ryan asking, we want to control our breathing within 6, and generally, like when you're doing strong breath holds, like 90 seconds or 2 minutes, roughly speaking. If we're doing some really easy ones in the warm-ups, 30 seconds or a minute rest. When we're doing stronger ones, up to 2 minutes. Okay, should be back to normal. So first 10 steps, normal walking, then fast walking, then jogging. Okay, see how we get on. I'm going to time it and count my steps. So nice and relaxed. Shake it out, smile. When you're ready. Normal breath in, normal breath out. Pinch your nose. There's my second breath. There's my third breath. There's my fourth breath. I can feel my heart, but my breathing feels back to normal, which is good. So I did 4 breaths to get back to normal. Felt like I was in control and regulated it. I'm probably a bit too late for my pulse oximeter. I'll try. And so if we want to regulate it within 6 breaths, I could have pushed that a bit further. I got to 100 paces and it took me 41 seconds. So if I only really needed to be challenging in 30 seconds for the adaptations I want, I could increase, if I had more space, I could have been running faster. Or for this last one, we're going to do squats. The metabolic demand of squatting rather than walking is much harder. Also, the movement up and down, like your diaphragm feels a bit different and a bit weirder. Yeah. So it's a bit of something different to get used to, but it's something actually squatting or lunging. Sorry, for those of us that are like going to the gym or you're doing field sports, thinking about what sort of like simple body weight movements am I doing in my warm-ups or drills that I do in my warm-ups that I could use this for. Like walking around, not many people do walking like this in their warm-ups. Yeah. One of the things that I want to try and help people do is like, how do you integrate this into your current warm-up so you don't have to do anything extra in your life and you're just going to get all the benefits? Does that make sense? Yeah, thumbs up. Cool. Right. Rachel, really feeling diaphragm on that one. Good recovery there. Good. You should. The one thing about when you feel that diaphragm contracting, it's a strong contraction. And when you do, the longer you do it for, like the longer you hold the breath up, the contraction gets stronger. Like it's tough. Yeah. But that diaphragm contracting, it's helping that neuromuscular connection of how you activate your diaphragm, and all those contractions has helped building the strength of it. Stronger muscles, diaphragm's a muscle like any other muscle in the body. It has some differences in terms of its shape and everything. It's an interesting muscle for sure, and a very important one. Some people say the most important. So that stops working, you get no oxygen in, you're dead. So it's probably important. And stronger muscles function better, their endurance is better. And by doing breath holding, you are training the diaphragm for that strength. So if you're better connected to your diaphragm and it's stronger, it's going to be easier for you to use it during exercise. It's certainly going to be easier for you to use it when you're at rest. And remember, don't forget, the quality of your breathing at rest dictates the quality of your breathing when you're exercising. If you're not good quality breather at rest, but you don't notice because it's hidden, your breathing isn't challenged at rest. But if it's not good, when you go, or it's just less than optimal, you go start exercising, that exercise exposes any issues or inefficiencies you have in your breathing. You don't get better at breathing because you start exercising. It's the opposite way around. Yeah, cool. Right, so the last one, this will be our last breath hold. And the pain will have stopped, but you'll have elicited some changes and some adaptations for your body to improve. Is going to be squatting. Okay, so just have a little bit of a feel of what that's potentially going to be like. So this is going to be on the spot, so you have to move about. Feet sort of hip width apart. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not judging anyone on anything, but I'm certainly not going to judge you on your squat. But like, try to have your knees tracking in line with your toes. Try to have you keep your chest up. But it's going to be we're just going to do a couple of reps just to feel what it's like. I want you to do like maybe do 2 or 3 reps, nothing more. Just go normal breath in, normal breath out, pinch your nose, and then 1, 2, 3. Let go, breathe in through the nose. Just get used to like that movement is going to be a bit different. Your glutes and then the hamstrings and your quads are working a bit differently. Yeah. So you're going to go normal breath in, normal breath out, pinch the nose. You're going to start your stopwatch. You're going to count how many squats you do. Okay. And time it. And one thing I'm really interested in the chat box, if you can give us the feedback, will be how long you do in squatting compared to what you did like walking and fast walking and jogging. Yeah, that'll be really interesting for you to see the difference. Okay, so shake it out, relax, smile. It's going to feel a little bit different. Your diaphragm's going to go a bit bonkers. It's your last one, so try and push through. Okay, when you feel comfortable, smile in, normal breath in, normal breath out, pinch your nose, and off you go. Remembering, swallow, we need to swallow, keep smiling, go at a pace that feels comfortable for you, not too fast, not too slow. When the diaphragm contracts, that's fine. It's just CO2 building up. It's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. Keep going. You'll notice that the nose will feel nice and clear afterwards as part of this breath holding as well. Keep working. Good. Good, Andrea. Good, Nigel. Good, good. Keep going. Keep going. Those are still there. Really good. Really good. Really good. And then regulate the breathing within 6. And then just give us a bit of, give us as much feedback as you're happy to do in the chat box. So how many squats you did, the amount of time, how did it compare to the time of the other one? And just how did you find it in comparison? Most of the time, a lot of people will find cracky squatting was harder, but I can appreciate that I do some squats in the gym before I start lifting weights in my warm-up. Yeah, I could use it then. Yeah. David Goggins. It's not Goggins, but in my mind, you're going to be David. Apologies. 24 seconds on squatting is good. Say much harder, but that's good. 24 seconds is good. Nice. About 28 seconds or 30 seconds. Good, 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 good. Some losing count. That's normal. Felt a lot harder. Yeah, the squatting, does it make sense? It's like, is it metabolically demanding, more demanding? Or David is enjoying the Goggins chat. Yeah, heart rate might rise up even more. Cool. Okay, there's I hope that's been helpful and a nice introduction. Like one of the key things to take away, like we built up slowly. Like it's important to build up gradually, even when you start getting good at them. Yeah. How can you do being regular with them? Yeah. So can you be consistent with them? One of the biggest things about being consistent, helping you be consistent with them is like when maybe I always walk the dog at whatever time in the morning. You could just do them when you're walking the dog. I always do this in my warm-ups before I go to the gym. Can you do some of them in your warm-ups? We don't have to do 5 all the time. We get some benefits after just 1, but it's strongest after 5. Would you do as a warm-up before running? Yes. If you do it like I did, sometimes I'm lazy with them, but on Saturday, we went out for a run. I did mine. I went out with Mrs. Jacko. We did a 9K run. I did mine. She didn't do any. I was a bit sneaky. I didn't tell her I was doing them. And I literally was like, come on, love, keep up. Like I didn't, it's just, when you have more red oxygen, so more red blood cells going around your system, even just a few % more, like it makes a dramatic difference. And you feel, yeah, you do 5 strong breath holds, 10-15 minutes before you start as part of your warm up. And I guarantee you're going to feel better. You'll feel a difference. So yeah, I'm glad it's been helpful for people. Yeah, so it's very good to do in your warm-ups. Yeah, grazie everyone. So just to highlight a couple of like key points for you, and then I just share the last little bit. Things I want you to think about are: we built up slowly. Integrate them into your warm-ups. Regulate your breathing within 6. Okay. Think about how you're using it to manage your or a chance to challenge your breathing recovery. It's hard to recover afterwards. Like your breathing wants to be out of control, but you're teaching yourself new habits, new patterns of how to breathe when your breathing wants to be out of control, and how the context of that can go into when you're actually exercising. There are some other things that we can do around, like we could challenge our recovery even more. I could block one nostril and try to do my recovery breath through just one. Your diaphragm has got more resistance to work through because you've only got one nostril to use now. That's challenging. Challenging once you're like, don't try and do that if you've never really done this before, but challenging your recovery, breathing, so that when you let yourself do normal breathing, you're even better. Does that make sense? You're like adding a load to it, adding a challenge to it. So we improve even more, we adapt even more. We can very simply just try and minimize the amount of it. So rather than 6 normal breaths or 6 big breaths, we could minimize the breathing for 6. So trying to actually breathe, so 6 first recovery breaths, just a small amount of air in and a little bit out, so that you're not letting the low oxygen and the high CO2 normalize as quickly. You're going to have more benefits or a prolonged period of lower oxygen, high CO2 to adapt from. But obviously, like, not going to do that in like lesson 1 with people. These are some of the types of things in the sports performance course that I run. That's all done online, like Zoom sessions like this. At the moment, I'm running 2 live sessions a month. The beginning one in February was last week, but the next one coming up in February is the 16th of February. And so that sports performance course has those 2 live sessions a month, but you've got like the whole, I think there's like 6 modules of content, of videos that you get to work through at your own pace. The cost for the course is 99 quid as a one-off cost, and you can join as many of those live sessions as you want, where we work through some of the concepts of that. Plus, there's new stuff that we're learning and practicing with all the time. I'm working with some professional rugby teams, some professional individuals, some triathletes, where we're learning things and we're working on things, and I add those things into those live sessions on top of what's already there in all the self-paced courses. If you just really want to get a really nice handle on the basics, there's a live basics session that I'm running at the moment that's we started last week, so you can't join that now, but there is a self-paced online option for that. That's only 45 quid. I think I've noticed a few people's faces that are actually certified Oxygen Advantage instructors joining the call, which is nice, but also intimidating. You guys like watching what I'm doing, checking that I'm doing it right. That makes me laugh. Yeah, I'm, as a master instructor, I run the certifications as well. And there's one that's actually sold out. That's starting on the 15th of, so that's starting next week. That's actually sold out. But I obviously will be running more of these throughout the year. So if you are interested in becoming a certified coach yourself with the Oxygen Advantage, you don't have to do it with me. You can do it with Patrick McKeown. You can do it with the other master instructors. But if you wanted to do it with me, register your interest on the website. I'll send links to all that stuff. Then just as a thank you for everyone that's joined, if you want to, like, interested in how they could use this a little bit more in improving my sports or exercise performance, the ebook, which has all the same videos for like the self-paced sessions. Obviously you don't get any live sessions as part of the ebook, but that's normally 29 quid. Trying to make an affordable option for people, and if you use the code workshop10, it's just 19 quid, so you get 10 quid off. Includes money back guarantee. Like, genuinely, if you do all of the stuff, even if you read the book, watch the videos, and don't do the stuff and you're like, I just think this is rubbish, Jacko, I'm more than happy to give you your money back. But if you do the exercises, you will see the improvements, and that's what we want. So hopefully that makes these things an affordable option for people. I'll send an email with the video link to watch this back, and just to remind you of those codes if you want to use them. Yeah, you'll have booked onto this through Eventbrite. The website is rootedlife.co.uk. If you've not, there's I've got a free better breathing ebook on there as well. I'll send all those links in an email. But cool. Thank you all very much for joining. If anyone has any final question, you can put them in the chat box. Otherwise, my sister, my little baby sister, is back from Wales to visit my dad, who's poorly, and us. So I'm going to go and make them dinner, and see those. But if anyone's, that's my evening. I hope you all have a lovely evening yourselves as well. But yeah, and if you have any questions, something props up, you got a question, like, obviously you can reply to the email that I'll send you. Cool. Thank you, you little legends. Gracias, muchos, and God bless you all. And I'll see you. I haven't put a date in the diary for the session, the free session that I'll do in March, but keep an eye out for that. I'll see you all again soon. Thanks for joining, everyone. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.